Hey, all my Taurus friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your April 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So I'm talking about Taurus rising when I'm referring to the house system. It's based on that. This is also applicable for Taurus moon or Taurus sun, as well as any stelliums in Taurus, which is 3 or more personal planets within the sign of Taurus. These videos are also based on the Pacific time zone. So if you are somewhere else in the world, please adjust for your location. Let's jump in, Taurus. First thing I want to talk about is Mercury's retrograde on the first day of the month, which is pretty powerful because in your first house of Taurus, you've been experiencing Jupiter's expansion and Uranus's unexpected liberation, maybe even a sense of your future calling you forward, almost asking you to look into the windshield of your life versus in the rearview mirror. Taurus by nature is rules our personal history. It rules the second house. It rules the phrase I have, my possessions. It rules your personal skills. So this Jupiter Uranus conjunction, and actually the whole time Jupiter's been in this house, these planets have been dancing around each other for almost a year now. And so you've been feeling this coming on. And I bring this up because as Mercury goes retrograde, Mercury referring to our communications, our language, our technology, our everyday activities, our emails, our teammates, our workmates, our siblings, our cousins, our neighborhoods, the sidewalks that we walk on, the roadways that we drive on, is retrograding in Aries, and it will retrograde until the 25th. Let me check my notes real quick. Yes, until the 25th of the month. So, and this is Mercury's retrograde is a review, an opportunity to reevaluate, to assess, to even rest, because this is going into your 12th house, and the 12th house is the house of rest, to give yourself an opportunity to really review how you want to move your personal story forward in the months ahead. I think that the Jupiter here, while it represents foreign people, foreign travel, higher education, and it rules the justice system, it rules religion. But on a personal note, because we're here in a very personal house, the house of my skills, the house of my self-worth, the house of how I perceive myself as a result of what I've experienced growing up, up until whatever chapter you're in your life. And Uranus is offering an opportunity to liberate yourself from and look to the future and to innovate and to sort of recognize that if you're feeling any sort of anxiety or nervousness, it could be because you're straddling, two worlds, one of yesteryear and one that is offering itself but is unknown. Now, Mercury moving backward into your 12th house of traditionally Aries is the house of the self. It is the house of your own perception, your ego, your drive in the world. It is very passionate. It's sexually charged. It's ruled by Mars. And here, when it's in your 12th house, it's feeling a bit unseen, but it's also feeling a sense of familiarity about that, as if being unseen is familiar in some way, because the 12th house is an ancestral house. It's a house where your soul is bringing in a certain lineage. Now we're looking at the transit planets right now, and we see that while the sun is here in Aries, in your 12th house, the North Node and Chiron have been transiting through this house for quite some time. Chiron represents the wound that we have. And many times this is a wound that is chronic. It won't go away. Maybe you're feeling a sense of, the truth of who you are, of your skills, is not really blossomed. You have not been able to really stretch that part of yourself. And the transit North Node is calling forth that experience in a ravenous way. Now Mercury is retrograde, is going to go over all of these points, culminating at 15 degrees before it moves forward again. So I think that Taurus, as this Mercury is retrograding, this is really a review in how to reframe, to allow for a 2.0 version of what you would like for yourself in the way of asserting your passions, your skills, your talents into and birthing into the material world. This particular Mercury retrograde is not, I wouldn't initiate a new contract or anything with somebody who is brand new, but it definitely feels as if things can still move forward. It's just about slowing things down, not being too anxious, really reviewing the information. Because Jupiter, while it rules foreign people, etc., what I said earlier, it also rules money and wealth and expansion and business and commerce and marketing and branding and publishing. There's a good chance that you're experiencing some sort of ability to birth yourself through technology or across the World Wide Web. You could see growth in a Etsy, account. Taurus rules beauty, and it rules like jewelry and trinkets and more earthly things in Taurus that bring comfort, as well as food. You could see if you're pursuing a career in the culinary arts or even in the, sustainable goods type thing, you could see a real jump in business. That's just a couple of things I could name about Taurus, because the second house, which you naturally rule, does refer to a potential career path when we use our skills. Now, Mercury, as it's retrograding over these points, is giving you an opportunity to look at the people around you, if they're supporting a bigger picture of what you want, or if they're just hanging around because they've always been there and actually in some way they're anchoring you. This could be a little bit of a challenge because, you as a Taurus, you rule history, you rule having a journey with somebody and that loyalty that's attached to that journey. And sometimes you can be a little stubborn and not want to really recognize that, maybe it's time for an expansion in a situation. And I don't know where that comes in, but it could come in all sorts of ways, because it could come in the form of what you believe about yourself. I wanted to also talk about, let me just click on Mercury real quick. Mercury is making a square to transit Pluto in Aquarius, and Aquarius is your 10th house of career. So this just emphasizes to me the possibilities that are on the table for you as the conjunction between Uranus and Jupiter gets tighter. But in many ways, this is going to require you to be willing to allow yourself to transform in a public way. The 10th house is the most public house on the wheel. It is where we see leadership and authority. It's where we see a change in our status. In some ways, people being able to see you go from rags to riches, or from married to single, or from childless to having a child. There's a lot of potential. And with Mercury up here at the, I shouldn't say up here, Mercury is actually going into your 12th house. This could in some way create an awareness of your everyday daily activities, even, or feeling like you have to do things on your own. And this square is a tense, it's like a fork in the road where you could inadvertently default to old habits, and the awareness of having to stretch yourself to exercise new thoughts, new habits, new beliefs. It might be arduous at first, especially for Taurus, because Taurus doesn't really like change, but at the same time, it can offer you such great benefit for material flow. And I emphasize this because Uranus is ruling your 10th house, and Uranus is here offering expansion through some sort of liberation or even a rebellion of some kind. And to me, it's a rebellion of my beliefs and an awareness of how I think and how I talk, what's my self-talk. People, in my private clients, I'm often when my clients are saying, I need to do this, I should do that, I'm reframing it. I get to do that. The vibration is so powerful in these two words. A need is very obligatory. It's a draggy foot. It's an uphill climb. A get to is an opportunity, and it sounds fun. So Taurus, just the awareness of your self-talk can really bring an epiphany of some kind that helps you move forward. The 12th house is a house of endings. It's where the soul, meets the final house before it goes back into the collective to reincarnate again. So this is an important opportunity to put something to rest, something that has maybe haunted you in your ability to create a powerful 10th house. There's that square. Pluto's, yes, Pluto does destruct things, but I've observed people who have been living imbalances where they're holding themselves small. And when Pluto came in, it put a spotlight on that toxic energy. And as it excretes that, it's brought people great happiness. So this is a real exciting time to claim yourself, because this is all this huge energy that astrologers are going to be talking about for months is in your first house of self and your ego and how you assert yourself out in there in the world. Okay. What else did I want to bring up? Okay, let's go to the 5th, because we're going to see Venus move into Aries. Now, she is considered in detriment in Aries. She is your ruling planet. And I want to offer it this way because she's moving into your 12th house, the house of my ancestral DNA, the house where we see, great spirituality and at the same time great imbalance and great delusion and fog. This is a house that rules, where we feel alone. Now, when Venus moves here, I think she's felt alone because traditionally the feminine has not been supported if it is powerful, if it is assertive, if she claims her space. Now, as she moves through the sign of Aries, heading towards her home, I think in these modern times, we can reframe this detriment. It's as if we can say, yes, it may not be easy for her to claim herself. It may not be easy for her to pursue her dreams, but it is absolutely possible when I give myself this, sort of, I want to say a wax on, wax off type situation where I'm willing, and Taurus is willing to do this, to take a slow road and address where my underlying history, the history of how I perceive myself, because you as a Taurus rule history, the self, the family history that you learned, where you learned how to have confidence. And in the 12th house, which is traditionally Pisces, but it is your Aries house, it is about how you perceive yourself, how your soul has historically experienced this earth journey. And you may not have felt seen. You may have been a supporting player. This conjunction's offering you an opportunity to step into the spotlight, because as you're brave here, Pluto can bring real benefit, because this is also your 10th house is Aquarius, and Aquarius rules internet, technology, futuristic things. And as you step into your authenticity, you're in alignment with what's happening in the world at large, how we're evolving, how we're communicating, how we're creating our own personal resources. The theme of of Taurus is I create, it's about possessions. It's about the things that I amass in the earth that make me feel comfortable and safe and secure. And I think you might be called forth to be a little insecure before you get secure. Okay. On the 8th of such a powerful time, on the 8th of April at 11:20 a.m. Pacific time, we're going to experience our second eclipse. Now, this is interesting for me because traditionally we have eclipses on a moon cycle where the first eclipse is a new moon and the second eclipse is a full moon. But last year, and I didn't write the dates down, the moon cycle changed for a brief period of time, and we've been experiencing full moons before a new moon each month. So at the end of March, we experienced our lunar eclipse in Libra. I bring this up because Venus rules Libra and Venus rules Taurus. Both have to do with Venusian skills, about how I feel about myself, how I assert myself into my dreams. And now we have an opportunity to plant the seeds for some new beginning. And this is very much in alignment with what I believe is going on here in your first house. Where I'm going to keep going back to this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction because they haven't come together in the sign of Taurus for probably hundreds of years. So this is a real opportunity to rewrite your beliefs, to get a stronger connection to spirit, to the divine, to all that is, to even the universe, whatever you want to call your higher power. We see this Chiron is it the same 19 degrees as this new moon. This is an opportunity to transform the wound that Chiron represents, the chronic wound, into a tool that becomes a gift for your abundance. And this is really about perception, which speaks back a bit to Mercury's retrograde. It's here in conjunction with Eris. Eris is a scrapper. She is Mars's little sister. She stands up for what she believes in. She fights for herself. And here she is at the Piscean degree. It is an opportunity to fight for your own creativity, to birth for yourself, first within your mind, then in your self-talk. This Mercury is very much about your self-talk and that inner knowing. And then as we move forward, Venus is going to be in your first house in just a short period of time. So this is a powerful solar eclipse for a couple of reasons. It's planting the seeds after the full moon's illumination and the culmination of a cycle that was in Libra. Libra, at the degree that the lunar eclipse is on this galactic center, representing the relationship I have with myself, indicates and nurtures the health of my relationship with other people. When we look at this new moon and Chiron all being conjunct, it's at the Libra degree. So it's echoing back to that lunar eclipse. And Libra is like your sister sign because you're both ruled by Venus. So this feels very powerful to me for you. And this also feels like an awareness of something where you transform something into a platform for expansion. So if the wound, has something to do with not being seen or feeling invisible or, even potentially being put away because, the 12th house being Aries can represent a bitter resentment that hides underneath. And the transformation of that resentment into an inspiration and that compels you forward could be the very vulnerability that brings in wealth and is actually influential for others, which speaks back to Pluto transforming your house of career, of really being seen in the public eye. So this is super powerful. Okay, let's go to, and always in the background, this whole month, you're going to feel this growing conjunction. They're getting closer and closer. And this is, I think this has been going on since March. So, ideas may be popping, things may be, calling you forth, and you may have to display even more faith in yourself than you ever have before, Taurus. I also wanted to mention, I forgot, is this Mars and Saturn's conversation in Pisces, which is your 11th house, the house of your networks, the house of the World Wide Web, the natural house of Aquarius. This conversation here, often astrologers will say, oh, Saturn wants to repress, slow down. Mars is not strong in Pisces. Neither is Saturn, most will say, but this is where these two become spiritual warriors. I don't know if you know about the Knights Templars, but this is absolutely where I would see something like that, where this is really an awareness of my connection to the divine and being willing to take the time and to review my history in a way that supports my brave action. Because while Saturn's going to stay in Pisces for another year and a half or so, Mars is going to zip into rulership at any moment in a matter of weeks. And I think that this conversation gives Taurus an opportunity to really put some structure and be brave in, birthing yourself in a broader platform. Again, technology, the World Wide Web, anything that's moving your story into the future in some way. I also think that the 11th house rules our hopes and our dreams, and I feel a little bit like Mercury's retrograde. While it is, it's going to continue on through the month, you may have illuminations that the things you thought you wanted in your childhood that would make you feel safe and secure may not be the same. They may be a 2.0 version of that as well. And you may not have been aware of it because you've been operating sort of on automatic pilot. We see Saturn and Mars making what they call a quincunx to the south node in Libra. This is your, let me look real quick. Where's my Libra is your 6th house of work. And so this is, again, let me explain quickly what a quincunx is. It's sort of where the planets don't really understand what they're saying. Like, it's sort of a blind spot. The South Node represents a spiritual point of loss, of habitual behaviors, of, our biggest challenges in some respects, and our most, our greatest opportunities for awareness that compel us into our North Node energy. Here, you don't see it because history is somehow repeating itself. And at least that's at this time. So as you're planting these new seeds for an awareness of an awareness of being in the present moment and taking that moment to move your story forward versus trying to fix the past, you'll have a much more successful experience. And then, we can see you move forward in your dreams in such a quicker way, because Uranus is very quick. It's genius. And then there's the expansion of it. So this is very powerful. Okay. Now we'll get to the middle of the month. Now let's just go there. I'm going to go to the 13th. And now we see there that Jupiter and Uranus are on top of each other. This is a big conversation. It is a broad, expansive, multicultural, philosophical conversation about really integrating the past so that it can propel the future in a way that's more balanced and defined. Because I say that because Saturn co-rules Aquarius. So Saturn rules history and Uranus rules the future. I think this is where we learn from history versus harping on it and perpetrating it and moving it forward continually. We also see that we have a growing sextile to Mars, where this is where the spiritual warrior is aware of what I want to experience in the way of asserting myself within my own creativity, my own spirituality, the higher vibrations of the Pisces energy, while it is also, I want to say, willing to cut through the muck, willing to be brave in how it's reframing itself. I tell a lot of people that, when you do a YouTube channel, and, look, I'm not inviting in negative comments, but look, if you never get a thumbs down, if you never get a negative comment, you're not really in the game. The broader the arena, the more people chime in with their opinion. So this is about brave action and not letting history anchor you in, meaning fear of the unknown or whatever the case may be. Okay, and then I wanted to bring up on the 18th, because we see on the 18th, we have our first exact conjunction. They're going to be conjunct Jupiter and Uranus, both at the 21st and the 22nd degree. But what I thought was interesting at this time was this connection between Mercury retrograding, thinking again, how do I express myself? How do I assert myself, my talents, my desires, my voice? Here, Venus, Mercury's, right here. Chiron is in the mix here, exposing the wound and calling forth the, when I say the transformation of the wound, it doesn't ever mean that it goes away to me. It means that I have an awareness of it. So I use it as a piece of information. Thank you, Mercury, so that I can be more aware of when I hold a pattern of not believing in myself. And the North Node here is stretching for me to be, look at myself. And am I driving myself to prove to others and tell them to F off? Or am I actually following my passions that will inadvertently take care of that situation anyway? This time is allowing you to really transform a lifelong soul's lifelong journey of not being seen in some way. This is very powerful for you, Taurus, because this is where I feel like when you start to truly sing and you get enough breath, you do things you didn't even know you could do. That's that whole North Node thing over here, calling forth your skills, your talents, your voice. On the next day, the 19th, we're going to enter your season, and the sun has entered Taurus. We're still having this conversation. Now the mind could be racing. The closer that Mercury gets to the North Node, the more you could be aware that I just want the loop in my head to stop, or I just want to have, a calming of some kind. The North Node is very, very ravenous for an experience. And I think here, when we look at the 12th house as a creative house, as a house where I get to sing and dance and write music and write poetry and have photography and create films and entertain people in many ways, this North Node is calling forth to be seen for all those talents. And here, we're seeing this 10th house activity that is wanting structure. Did I say 10th house? No, I'm sorry. I meant 11th house. I apologize. The structure is building it on in a bigger way, in a broader way, in a way that looks to the future, that builds on the past rather than being anchored from the past. Okay, let's go on to the 23rd of the month, where we're going to have a full moon in Scorpio. Let me change the time. This is going to happen at 4:48 p.m. Pacific time. Okay, so we see this here. This full moon is in your 7th house, Taurus. This is going to be an illumination of a deep sense of, when we think of the seventh house, we think of marriage. And while that's very true, it's a house of contractual partnerships. It's a house where we commingle for the first time and try to create harmony and cooperation and peace. And having it be Scorpio for you, it adds a layer of financial dynamic there. It adds a layer of dominance, power, control through potential partnerships that are contractual. So that includes professional partnerships. This to me very much indicates that somewhere you could have, an illumination, the culmination of a cycle and that cycle could be where you identify where you've been giving up your power in a situation. You're ready to liberate yourself. Jupiter's now moved over Uranus. It's starting to wrap up its stint, and it's going to move into your second house of your natural house of making money. And while Jupiter is not in its highest vibration in Gemini, it will absolutely offer expansion of when we use our awareness, that the details and the broad thoughts work best when they're integrated. And this is what is going to continue to be echoing going on as Mercury continues its retrograde in your 12th house. So this is very powerful. We're also seeing this cluster of the planets all being in, the house of ancestry, the soul's history, then the house of self, and then the house of how the self was molded in this earthly experience in those first formative years. So as you feel a sense of liberation from that, and I often think that Taurus, you can use your story rather than having it be a sad story. It could be a very inspiring story when one looks outside of the details, maybe, and sees a bigger picture. And then the commingling of the details could be so amazing for you as you could potentially have the skills to be a storyteller. You could be a storyteller through many ways. So, that's that second house of Gemini ruling, teaching, writing, speaking, all those kind of fun things. All right, now we're going to go to the 25th. We move this back to 12 p.m. And this is where we see the second exact conjunction. In your first house, now we have, Venus is about to enter her rulership. Mars is about to enter his rulership. So this conjunction here, now at the 22nd degree, this is the Capricorn degree. And, it could be a little bit unsettling on a world stage. This is considered a very challenging degree when you look at the degree theories in astrology. But on a personal level, being aware and having teed up, this could be very liberating where new structures are built. The 22nd degree is the Capricorn degree, and Saturn ruled the golden age. So the awareness and the steady and determined, in some ways stubborn energy of you continuing to allow for a broadening of your thoughts, stretching yourself on internet platforms or throughout technology in some way. I think it's really going to bring some fun things. And again, Jupiter is going to move into your second house and spend a year in the house that you naturally rule, the house of money, the house of I have. And here we see Mercury is about to move direct. And I think this is important because this 15th degree is important because it's the Gemini degree. So I'm really aware of my self-talk now. I'm really aware of my ego and where it's biting me and where it wants to move forward. And while the nodes are moving this direction, I think that Mercury is taking away how important this is to you. And you're willing to really transform the wound by saying, I don't know if it'll ever go away. So what's the point of looking at it over and over again? Let me focus on myself, Venus. Let me stand up for myself. Eris, the street fighter, the one that won't back down when she believes in something. And then as Venus moves into your first house, you can really start to feel your mojo coming in. All right. Okay, now on the 28th, we have Mars making an exact conjunction to Pisces. Now, I'm sorry, to Neptune in Pisces. Now, this could, often people say, oh, fiery Mars is going to be dampened down by delusional Neptune, the water of Neptune. I really believe this is where we could potentially see spiritual warriors. We could also see the Navy, the Coast Guard, all sorts of jobs there. But here, if we're talking about just personal journeys and awareness, this very much feels as if I've become aware of what's important to me. And again, I'm seeing this theme of thought. The 28th degree reduces down to a 10. We've got 2 10s here. That is actually an 11, which is the master number of thought. What has Mercury been doing? Thinking about their thoughts. What am I harping on? Am I harping on anger and frustration? Am I willing to move my story forward? Well, a little bit of a challenge with Taurus is that it doesn't forget when it's been hurt, I mean, it can forget when it feels it's been validated. But if somebody sloughs off a Taurus and doesn't really acknowledge a pain that you may have, you probably won't forget it. So this is an opportunity for you to really decipher if it anchors you into an old, worn out story, or it gives you, permission to reframe that as a tool to cut through the muck and move forward. Excuse me. All right. Now let's go to the 30th. And we see that Venus has stepped into her rulership and Mars has stepped into his rulership. And this is very powerful because this is the male, the masculine energy of Aries and the feminine energy of Taurus are now being focused upon as their rulers come home to roost. And Mars is going to become more and more aware of the way that it wants to assert himself. This is taking the spiritual warrior energy that we saw being birthed in your 11th house of your hopes and your dreams, and now sort of rewriting it and saying, you know what, if I hadn't experienced that, I might not have been compelled to move this direction. Because Mars is going to go over all these points and choose whether to be resentful or to rise above and transform the energy. And at the same time, Venus is going to move forward and she's going to meet in May with these 2 points. And this is where we could see things really come into the earthly plane in a material way, in an I have way. So I think that is really powerful. I also want to point out that on this last day of April that we have the moon for a few minutes. I think we're at, hold on. So here we see where this is at 12 p.m. Pacific time. This moon traversing over Pluto could very much bring forth a sense of wanting transformation sooner than later. And I don't mean to laugh when I say that, but we've got sort of a double whammy of this square to Venus up here that could rule my history, and Pluto wanting to bring the history up only long enough to transform it into the future. And this may have something to do with the moon is exalted in Taurus, even though it's here in Aquarius. You have a natural affinity for the moon. So here, as you surrender to whatever the underbelly is, that, if you have a momentary glitch and you feel like you're not valuable enough, let it slip a little, let it settle, because it's probably not true. And then as the moon moves on, you'll start to feel better. Remember, the moon zips around like hormones around the zodiac. All right, that's it for Taurus for April. It's a huge, huge month. So, buckle in, because there's a lot of fun stuff that could happen, and there could be some hairpin turns at the same time. All right, Taurus, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. If you'd like to book a reading with me, either an angel reading or an astrology reading, I'm available. My information is below in the description. Have a fabulous April, and awareness is the key. We'll see you soon. Like, subscribe, share, all that great stuff. Thanks. Bye.